All right, thanks for joining me back here on my new YouTube channel. It's only been a couple of weeks since the soft opening, since I launched this thing, and I've been pleasantly surprised with the viewership. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, and maybe we'll start doing even more of these things. So I wanted to check in today because the first numbers, the real numbers from Brandon Aiyuk's contract, were published at Pro Football Talk. Mike Florio over there at Pro Football Talk got a hold of the exact details of the contract, and it's basically it's a 4-year extension. That's a 5-year contract because he was already under contract for this season, and the first year of that deal this year, the way it's structured, it actually creates 8.4 million, 8.399 to be exact million in cap savings for the 49ers this year. And so we'll go through it pretty quickly. It's a 4-year, $120 million extension. So that the 4 years begins in 2025. The entire 4-year deal is for 134.1. So it's basically the 14.1 that he was scheduled to make this year on the 5th-year option that basically for numbers purposes remains intact. And then the 120 million begins next year. So total price of the deal is, it's a 5-year, $134 million contract. 45 million of that is fully guaranteed at signing, but in actuality, the real guarantees are 76 million. And as Florio writes at Pro Football Talk, the 49ers can pull the plug after 3 years and $76 million. Okay. So the big money for Brandon Aiyuk really doesn't kick in until 2027. So his cap figures for the first 3 years, 5.7 million this year, 11.2 million next year, and then in 2026, 16.2 million. And so the big money kicks in for cap purposes. The big money kicks in 2027. So how does that kind of fit into the 49ers mosaic of all these high priced players? I know there was a lot of talk early in the offseason that if the 49ers do decide to sign Brandon Aiyuk to this deal or they're able to get it done, what it would mean. It could be the final year of Deebo Samuel with the team because, and I don't know why I kind of bought into it a little bit, mostly because I think probably there are other, there were smart people saying that. But with the longer this thing went on and the stranger it got, I kind of started to rethinking this, and I thought that there was just no way the 49ers could play that game of, hey, sign Aiyuk now and then keep Aiyuk and Deebo together for this season and then cut ties with one of them. Obviously, it would be Deebo because they had just signed Aiyuk to that extension. But just the longer it went on, I just felt like they had to be able to structure this so that they didn't have to make that kind of decision, that they could keep Brandon Aiyuk for at least 3 years, and they could keep Deebo Samuel through the end of his contract. And his contract is set to expire after the 2025 season. So 2 full years of Deebo Samuel. And when you look at it, this is what the 49ers have done with a lot of their contracts as far as very reasonable prices early and then bigger cap hits later. And so, everybody's also saying, well, this will be the last year that the 49ers can remain together. Now, granted, they are an old roster, one of the oldest in the NFL, but I really don't see anything like set in stone where, oh my gosh, with this contract for Brandon Aiyuk and for Brock Purdy's contract, the 49ers are going to have to make some difficult decisions. Well, I guess they kind of started that this offseason, signing, or I should say, releasing Eric Armstead and then being prepared to release Kyle Juszczyk, giving him kind of the ultimatum of take this contract or leave it. And if you leave it, you're out. So Purdy's big money probably won't kick in on the salary cap until, let's see, 25, 26, probably the 2027 season. And so by that time, there will be, already kind of this mesh of guys leaving, young guys coming in. Obviously, the 49ers hope that this 2024 NFL draft class that looks really good right now, hoping that those guys can really maybe usher in a revitalization of the roster where some of those guys can become stars. Okay, so let's just take a look. They had four guys sign big money deals in 4 consecutive years before this year. Kittle, he signed through 2025. His big cap hit doesn't hit until next year. Right now, he counts 12.2 million on the cap. Next year, that jumps up to 22 million. The next year was Warner when he signed his deal, and he signed through 2026. His big cap hit begins next year, going from 12.7 million to 29.2 million. Deebo Samuel. This year he counts at 28.6 million. 49ers have plenty of cap space. So this is the big year where his money kicks in. And the next year it actually falls to 24.2 million. And then Bosa, he signed through 2028. He counts 14.7 million this year, 20.5 million next year, and then it jumps up 2026. He'll account for 42 million on the salary cap. So that's just to say that I don't see anything, the way the 49ers have staggered these contracts, it doesn't make this like a make or break season. The band won't be able to stick together. The Last Dance, all that stuff. I'm not buying it. Now, there might be some natural kind of turnover with the roster. And let's face it, I mean, the NFL rosters now, it's about 40% turnover every year. But as long as these guys are playing at high levels, then the 49ers can keep this group together, I think, for the foreseeable future. Also, a question maybe about Trent Williams. I don't think, the Brandon Aiyuk situation does not impact Trent Williams' situation in any way because, as I mentioned, the 49ers are actually saving cap space this season with this Brandon Aiyuk extension. He was scheduled to make 14 million on the cap, and now they create 8.4 million of space as they lower his cap number to 5.725. So, okay, those are my quick thoughts on Brandon Aiyuk's contract and how it impacts the team for the future. Once again, please subscribe to my channel, tell a friend, leave a comment. I'll try to answer any questions you have below. So again, thanks and have a great weekend.